Gotta get closer. What's up, people? I think we're live. Gonna check. We are live. Gotta get closer. There I am. Okay. What's up, people? It's David Sutcliffe. This is The Space, and we got two guests today, Lizette and Daniel, and they're going to come in, and I'm going to talk to them and answer any questions they have, help them try to get to the emotional root of what's going on for them. That's what I do. For those who don't know me, I am a core energetics practitioner. What is core energetics? It's a somatic psychotherapy, and it uses physical techniques, hitting, punching, kicking, stress positions to help people feel feelings trapped, held in their body, repressed emotion. And we all have repressed emotion. We all know that it's good to feel our feelings, but it's scary to feel our feelings, and we need help. And core energetics evolved out of bioenergetics. Many people have heard of that. Bioenergetics, created by Alexander Lohan. And he was really the godfather, or one of the godfathers of mind-body therapy, somatic psychotherapy, which has become extremely popular these days. Everybody's talking about somatic therapy, which is great because when I discovered it, it completely changed my life. I'd been going to therapy for years, started in my mid-20s, and I found it useful because it helped me really understand what I call the math of my problem, understood the link between what happened to me as a child and how that was manifesting in my life as an adult. I was repeating patterns and what it was really about, the unconscious beliefs and conclusions that I'd drawn based on my experiences in childhood and how they were having an impact on my life as an adult. And it was great to understand it cognitively, but I don't want to say nothing changed, but it didn't change the way that I wanted to. And I had this intuition that I had to feel my feelings somehow. I wasn't feeling. And at the time I was an actor, and I knew that there were places inside me I couldn't get to in certain scenes. I struggled to go there emotionally. So I knew there was some kind of block that I had. And a friend recommended this workshop, core energetics, he called it, he had gone to a workshop with a guy named Tom Strutt, and he cried. And I couldn't believe, what do you mean you cried? He was just a tough guy. And he told me what happened, and then he actually cried, he sobbed. And I was blown away. Just checking here from my assistant, tell me the volume is good. I was completely blown away. And I wanted to cry because I knew there were feelings inside me that I had to let out. And I hadn't remembered the last time that I'd cried. And so I went and saw this guy. This was in Toronto, probably, I'm going to say 2000, a long time ago. And it didn't take very long. He stood me up. We talked for a little bit, and then he told me to stand up, which is weird. And then I stood up, and then he walked around me, and he told me he just wanted to look at my body, which was extremely unnerving, to be looked at in that way, to be examined. And he took a minute, and then finally he said to me, "You look like a boy waiting to be told what to do." And that landed. And he could see that it landed. It impacted me. It affected me. In some way, it felt true. And then he said, "How does that make you feel?" And I said, "Angry." And he said, "Good." And I thought that was a pretty good start. I was bought in right away that he was able to pick up something about me just by looking at my body. I mean, it made perfect sense, but it was nothing that I'd experienced before. And then he had me do a few exercises, breathing exercises, simple hangover. He called it grounding. Basically charge up my body a little bit. And then he was standing behind me, had his hand on my shoulder. And then suddenly he just came like right in front of me, like close. And he looked at me and he said, "How long have you been lonely?" And I burst into tears. And I had never thought that I was lonely. I had lots of friends. I was a very social person. So it didn't make sense rationally that I was lonely. But as soon as he said it, I burst into tears. Like I was seen, like he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And I was feeling. And it was extremely gratifying. And so that was my introduction to Core Energetics. And I ended up working with him for years, off and on, because I was living in LA, but I would often spend summers in Toronto. So when I was back, I would always see him and we would work. And in one subsequent session, he introduced me to the tennis racket. And he had this sort of bed, almost padded bench. And he pulled out this tennis racket and he wanted me to hit with it and bring it over my head like this and hit down on this padded bench. And, he demonstrated for me, and it looked pretty intense. And I said, "I don't know if I want to do that." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because I don't know what's going to come out of me." And he said, "That's the point," which was very convincing. That's why I was there, to uncover things that were inside me, to express them, to let them out, with the assumption that the things that were inside me that I was holding back, that I was repressing, that I didn't know about, were causing problems in my life. And so I hit, and again, I was astonished by the level of hatred, there was really no other way to put it, that came out of me. I was angry. And it was right there, as soon as I gave myself permission to let it out. So much anger, rage, hatred came out of me. It was like in my body. And there was something about his presence and the way he talked to me, just his tone of voice, that gave me permission. There was a sort of acceptance that he had. And I felt safe to go there. But it did scare me. And then a couple sessions later, he laid me down on that bed, that bench that I was talking about. And he said, "What I want you to do is just like have a tantrum." And I immediately again was like, I don't know, man. And it was the same thing. Like one, felt silly. It was embarrassing. What I'm a grown man, and I'm just gonna throw a tantrum on this bed, like kick my legs and pound my fists and scream like a little child in front of you. I didn't want to do it. It felt humiliating. But he convinced me, and I was convinced by the power of the work. And again, somehow it made sense. I don't know why, but I could feel the logic in it. And so I went for it, and I probably, I don't know, kicked and hit for about 10 seconds. And then I snapped out of it. And he said, "Why'd you stop?" And I said, "Because I'm terrified of what's in there." It's like I just touched into something, and it was all red and black, and there was a whole world in there, like a void, a well of feeling and emotion. And I just got a glimpse of it and then shot out of it, because it terrified me. And then I really understood how scared I was to feel. And I think most of us are afraid to feel. In fact, that is the thing we are most afraid of, our feelings. Because if you're not afraid to feel, what are you actually afraid of? Well, you might be afraid of a lion or a man with a gun. But in terms of asking for the raise or taking a risk or asking out the girl, whatever it is, whatever that is, those fears are really we're just afraid to feel. Feel what? Rejection, humiliation, sadness. So this work really opened me up to the world of feeling that was inside me, and really helped me understand how much those repressed feelings were controlling my life. In other words, if I've got things inside me, feelings, emotions, that I don't want to feel, that I'm afraid to feel, it's unconscious, I'm not aware of it, I'm going to avoid any situation, any circumstance that might bring about those feelings, logically. And so think about all of the life that you avoid because you're afraid to feel. Now, you may not even be doing it intentionally. As I said, it's unconscious. But you make little decisions about what to do, what not to do, who you're going to date, who you're not going to date, what you're going to pursue, what you choose not to pursue. And the mind will rationalize it, will come up with a reason, but very often underneath, it's just fear. And so we're really limited by these repressed emotions. And talking about it, as we do here on The Space, is valuable. It has a lot of utility because you can really kind of break down the constructs and then see the patterns, particularly how the mind works, how it rationalizes, as I just said. But to really get to the heart of it, you need to go through the body. And again, I think a lot of people are realizing this, a lot of therapists, and they're incorporating somatic practices into their practice. Breath work has become incredibly popular, somatic experiencing. And I notice that there's a lot of people now who are asking me about my work. And in fact, a lot of the programs that I run, very often there are therapists who come to them, come to my trainings, come to my workshops, because they want to add all of the things that Core Energetics offers to their practice, because they see the utility of it, how powerful it actually is. So that's a little bit about my backstory. I'm just waiting here. Somebody's supposed to come on at 1, but I guess they're not coming. I'm just going to check with my assistant here. Or I guess it's at 2. Jacob, what's, I guess they're not coming. Or is there a problem? Let me resend them the link. Yeah, maybe call her, Jacob. but then have her come on at 2, I think. Anyway, it's good to go live. Stand by, people. We're going to have guests on in just a minute. Well, maybe, is anyone in the chat here? I don't know how to do the chat. I'm still learning, everybody. I'm really, I'm sorry for these delays here. I'm still learning about how to do this. This is only the second one that I've done, so there's going to be all kinds of technical problems. But basically, what we've done is we put out a call. I put out a call on my Instagram to people who want to be interviewed on the show. You can do it on camera, or you can just do voice. And they're like little mini therapy sessions, 30 minutes each. And I'm going to try to work with 3 or 4 people every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And we did our first one last week, and it was really interesting. And it's just an opportunity for me to talk to people, an opportunity for people to talk with me. And there's something actually really cathartic about doing it live on YouTube, because I guess the question is why? Why would you want to do it live in front of people? Why would you want people to witness? And I've made a number of documentaries on this work. I've filmed group therapy workshops, and when people see it, they always ask me, how the hell did you get these people to do it? Because it's so incredibly vulnerable what it is they're doing. They're revealing themselves in such a deep way. It's counterintuitive. But my feeling about it is, I think most of us want to be seen. And we want to be seen in an authentic way. And when you do something real, which is what we're doing here, something that's authentic, you get to be seen in a real way. And I think that's what we're all longing for. And I think now more than ever, people are longing for authentic truth, because there's so much bullshit out there. So much is contrived, or it's fake, or it's scripted, and we can feel it. We can feel that it's not really real. It's not authentic. It may be entertaining, but it's not getting really to the root of it. And my feeling has been for a long time, or maybe it's just what I'm interested in. I like stuff that's raw and real and gritty and gets to the truth, even if there's some discomfort, even if it's uncomfortable. And I think most people want that. They want to be seen, and they're willing to be seen in the places that they're most vulnerable. And I'll tell you why. Because once you're seen in that way, you're actually free. You're not hiding anymore. And I think for most of us, we hide, right? Everybody hides something. We hide from the world. We hide from our partner. We hide from ourselves. Little secrets, things we don't want to admit, we don't want to reveal. And those things stay in the shadow, and they keep us separate. And what's the saying? You're only as free as your secrets. Yeah, you're not free there. You're not free when you have secrets. So there's something about doing something like this, where you really get a chance to be authentic and have people witness you, where you free yourself. And I think that's what we all want, is to be free. And the second thing is, I think you're really doing a service, because what happened for me when I first started going to group therapy, because after I saw this guy, Tom Strutt, in Toronto for years, that same guy who referred me to him, he referred me to somebody else, a woman named Ann Bradney. And that was my first time working in a group, 20 people at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California, for a week of somatic group therapy. Ann called her workshops Radical Aliveness, which I kind of rolled my eyes at. Sounded a little hippie, a little new agey. And she came off, on the surface at least, as a little new agey. But once we got into it, she was a beast, a warrior. And I think I talked about this last time. The idea of being in a group was terrifying, but then I started to realize that everybody there underneath, we all had the same issues. We were all just longing for deeper connection. We all had shame. We all had pain. We all had anger. We all had resentment. We all had doubts about our lovability, so to speak. And we all had fears. And even though a lot of people in the workshop were different than me on the surface, underneath, I realized that we were all the same. And that was deeply gratifying and connecting, of course, because then, you don't feel separate, because I think a lot of people feel like they're the only ones. I'm the only one with this issue. Everybody has got their shit together except for me. And that's just not true. And I can tell you that having been in Hollywood and having met a lot of very famous and successful people, they're struggling with the same issues that we're all struggling with, issues of self-worth and relationship and what am I going to do next, and all the things that that human beings struggle with. It's all the same. There's a great quote by Gibran. What is it? It's if we were all to sit around in a circle and confess our sins, we would die of laughter because of how unoriginal it is. Something like that. Gibran. Yeah, here it is. Where'd it go? I just had it. If we're all to sit around in a circle and confess our sins, we would laugh at each other for lack of originality. That's exactly it. We're all the same. We all got the same issues. So that's a big part of what this is. And so every Wednesday, 2 o'clock, I'll be taking guests. And then I'll be doing interviews with people as well. I've got a couple of really interesting ones lined up, and it's going to be the same thing. I mean, these might be more public figures, but they're going to be psychologically oriented interviews. Not exactly therapy sessions, but if you saw my interview with Andrew Tate or Candy Can or Blair White, then you'll know. Okay, Daniel is here. I'm going to invite him in. Hi, Daniel. Let me just bring you on.
See if we can get myself. Oh, there we are.
There you are. How you doing, man?
Good afternoon. Very good. How are you?
Glad to have you here. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. I just heard the last few minutes, and I'm thinking, oh no, what have I got myself into? But it's too late now. So
No, I'll be gentle with you. I'll be gentle with you. Where are you?
I'm in Austin, Texas, which you obviously can tell from the accent. I know you used to be here. My wife's in another room watching. She insisted I make the point that she's like the world's biggest Gilmore Girls fan ever, so I have to specifically mention that.
Amazing.
Yeah, so in Leander, just outside Austin.
Okay. So I'm just going to make an
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
You came back. I think that was you.
Was it me?
I think it was you,
Okay.
but I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah, you're on a headset. Your wife is in. Is your wife listening in the next room? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. maybe, am I hearing that? Can you hear it? It's quiet.
No, I can't hear her at all. It's quiet in
Okay.
here.
Yeah, you sound good now. Okay, you're in Austin, Texas. Where are you originally from?
Northern England, near Liverpool and Manchester. But
Okay.
we've been in the US for 10 years.
Okay. Fantastic. 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you come to the US?
Because we were sat at home one day about 12 years ago in crappy English spring weather, which means not going anywhere or doing anything. And we said, we don't actually have to live here. It would solve our whole business. And an idea snowballed. It took about 30 minutes to conclude that we could live anywhere in the world, so we should live in America, we should live in the sunshine. And we and 5 children emigrated about 16 months later.
5 children.
Apparently.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Good for you. Because I just
Yeah.
did that with my wife, but there's just the two of us. We had the same, like, hey, we can go anywhere. And so we decided to come to Mexico, which is where we are, and we're loving it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, Austin's a great town. Okay, so let's get into it, man.
Okay.
You you have an upper limit problem. That's what you let us know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, just recently, which has been another amazing book on a journey of probably 2 decades for me of understanding myself more and getting closer to my full potential. But that book was a really big, ooh, hang on, what's possible? And I have this belief that everybody is capable of more, but in a positive way. So more can have a negative connotation, but I just genuinely mean that there's no limit to our potential.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. Oh no, I'm never going to get there. That would be like a perfectionist tendency, which I don't have. Just this idea, I've got the opportunity every day to keep growing.
Yeah.
And the more I grow, the more I can help other people. But I know I've got all the beliefs that I thought I pulled most of them out of my unconscious into my conscious, all my different beliefs throughout my whole life. And I knew what they were like, and I knew how to maybe address the ones that weren't as helpful. But I keep discovering more. The deeper I go, you kind of discover maybe there's no limit to the amount of interesting program we've given ourselves over 48 years. And it's trying to work out, well, how do I keep addressing those things to achieve even more? I believe I'm meant to achieve important things and help lots of people, and it's part of why I want to do a thing like this is so I can get to grips with what you're doing as well, and then can I help other people in the same way? And I'm a bit of a holistic health geek, so I want to learn in any way I can to help others.
That's fantastic. So you've done a lot of work before. You've been mining your psyche, self-improvement. Have you done therapy and things like that?
Yeah, so I've done cognitive behavioral therapy, NLP, rapid transformational therapy, kind of studied quite a lot of it. I mean, I consider myself an excellent amateur therapist, but probably better for others than for myself. And I'm getting better at using the mirror and trying to look at myself. And yeah, I study properly, I actually read all those books and try and open my brain.
Yeah.
But as I say, there's no limit to what's possible.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting to grips ever more with, okay, maybe I perform in whatever way one chooses to explain it. I perform at a good level or a high level, but how can I hit an exceptional level? How can I achieve even more, whatever it might be?
So there's, I guess, inherent in that, there's a belief that if you want more, like where you're at, it's not enough. You don't feel satisfied. You don't feel fulfilled.
It's a good question.
Stuck?
No, it's a really good question. I only have a small bit of that. Maybe I used to have a lot of that. So it's like the power of now and Buddhist type principles of being in the now and actually living in the now, and therefore everything is good. And I'm working at embracing that whilst also wanting to keep developing and improving. And they sound like opposing ideas, but I think I can live with them both.
Yeah,
but maybe I get pulled towards the wanting to grow more. So maybe I'm less peaceful in the moment, and therefore I'm always less peaceful because I'm always looking forwards. Maybe that's what I'm really saying.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, I think that's a common. I think about it all the time because it's like we're always trying to improve, but yeah, there's something implicit in that. Like well, then there's something not okay with where I am, and I know I have to
Yes.
where I am in order to improve. So it creates this strange paradox. Like I have to accept
Yep.
myself exactly as I am, love myself as I am, trust that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that's the thing that will actually help me
And
elevate.
I believe that, I
Yeah.
think, kind of maybe here,
Yeah.
but I don't know how well I believe it like back here or down
Sure.
here or wherever
Sure.
it really is. And that's what I'm wondering is an issue.
Is this a common idea for you? Are you always self-improving? Is there always like this
Yes.
belief that you have to keep growing? You have to
And
keep.
fine line between being passionate about and then crossing a line to obsessed by.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's on and off for me, is that it falling into obsession. Or if I'm going to do something now, I must read. So I must read a book that I'm going to learn from. So don't read a novel because that could be a waste of an hour. Even though intellectually I know that reading a novel is really good for me in other ways, but I think I've got an internal battle going on there.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, it's a relatable story. I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to it. And I know I can relate to it. Do you have any sense of, because it sounds like we wouldn't be talking about it if there wasn't a quality to it that wasn't to some degree neurotic,
Yes.
right? That there's something going on underneath the surface that's unresolved, that's motivating it, even though the idea of growth and improvement is inherently good, that
Ooh.
there is some shadow in it.
Yeah, you did something there already because something just happened. I got like a weird tingly sensation in my face and kind of down here. And I heard the voice say, I'm not good enough. And
Yeah,
then I thought, nah, I don't think that. But I'm like, yeah, I obviously do because it just did. So that was intriguing.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Do you know? So there is a voice. Let's just mark that. There is some voice. You push it away, but when I said that thing, it came. The belief that you're not good enough or you're not enough. And I think we all have that. We can all relate to voice.
So
Um,
I had an aha thing a few years ago, which was in my childhood. My parents were very physically present, but maybe not emotionally present. And
mhm.
I'm an only child, so there was sort of a sense of, am I really safe kind of thing.
Yeah,
So, sort of safety, security is a thing for me.
yeah.
And I'm just, something in my gut is telling me there's a connection. I don't know what the good enough thing is. I never had anything around me, as far as I saw it, that was telling me you're not good enough. I think it's something that I've interpreted at a certain age, but I'm not quite sure why.
Hmm. You say your parents weren't emotionally present. What does that
Yeah.
mean, or was it? How did you experience that?
So the way I describe it to Mel, my wife, is I was a bit of the sort of the golden child because it took years for them to have me, and then finally they had me, and like, ta-da! So I picture myself up on an actual pedestal, really high, and I'm really, really young, and I look down, and they're there, but they're a few feet away, facing the other direction, and it's like, oh shit, that's not quite as ta-da as you'd like it to be. That's a little bit scary. Are you really there? Um, and I've done the work on all of that, as in, I believe that every single person is always doing what they genuinely believe is the best thing and the best they can in any moment, always. And it's really easy when you can look at, well, I knew my grandparents, so you can sort of be the amateur therapist and kind of see, so much was great. I'm not complaining about my childhood in any way,
Yeah.
but I can sort of see the pattern and go, okay, that's why I often had insecurities in adult life. How I processed a sort of a sense of, are you really there? If I really, really need you, maybe you're not, or I don't know. Therefore, am I
Mm,
safe? And
mm,
I've done tons of work with that, so I think I've come a really long way with it now, and
yeah.
it's a much smaller part of who I am. It's still there, hasn't gone away,
Right.
but I get a sense that there's a connection still
A connection
around that,
between.
between that and not good enough, and I don't know what the connection is.
It's
It's
an
just coming
interesting
to me
image,
now.
like that you ta-da, here I am, and their backs are toward you. They're not looking at you.
I Yeah,
Just as an image, it makes me feel sad.
Yeah, I had a recurring nightmare as a kid about being in the parked car. My parents have got out the car, left me in the car, and then the car starts rolling down the hill, and I can't do anything about it. And
Wow.
it's like, okay, that's pretty obvious what's going on there. It's like,
Well, what is going on for you? How do you interpret that dream?
um, again, I think that lack of true emotional presence from an emotionally fully matured parenting, let's
Right.
say.
Right.
So if they've got some, and we've all got some degree of child in us still, but if they've got a larger degree of it, then I don't maybe have or didn't have that full safety as a sort of parent-child safety or
Right.
sense of it. Even though I actually know I did at the time, I didn't think I did, and process that as I'm not safe
Well,
and I can be
didn't
left
you though?
alone. No, you're right. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I
Yeah,
know
I
it
mean, because
now, but I didn't know it then.
yeah, you didn't get what you needed to feel safe and secure, even though they were
Yes.
there on some level emotionally. Because children, we're like little dogs, and you've you ever seen the dog whisper? It's like it's energy, right?
Mm.
You can feel presence. Like presence has a quality, and when somebody is present, you can feel them, and when they're not present, you can't feel them. And I think
Yep.
there's something that's very disturbing for a child, particularly when we're very young. If we can't feel the presence of our parent, it's disorienting, and it feels like we're on our own because like they're not mirroring anything back to us necessarily, at least in a way that we can feel. So yeah, and it sounds like a small thing on one level, but just having worked with people for a long time and then done my own work, I know how devastating it actually is to not be able to feel your parents, your
Mm.
caregivers. It's alienating. And then the child has to try to make sense of it. And then the only way that they can really make sense of it is to interpret that it has something to do with them.
Yes.
Because you can't say, well, a 3-year-old doesn't say, well, my mom's got issues. It's hard for her to be present, and I'm not going to take that personally. We can do that as an adult, but a
Yeah, that'd be
child
some
just
3-year-old.
assumes it must be something to do with me. I must not
Yes.
be lovable. I must not be enough. They don't
Yeah,
seem
and
to
it's
care in the way that I
weird.
want.
I've never thought consciously about the not enough or not good enough thing.
Hmm.
So I don't know what magic powers you just, performed in those last 20 minutes, but something about the question you asked
Yeah.
just immediately just came out that maybe that was my interpretation at 2 years old or 6 years
Yeah.
old was,
Yeah.
oh, it must mean that I'm not good enough. And good enough as in, ooh, good enough as in able enough or effective enough, or
Right.
and because I'm thinking that then correlates. Well, why do I have to keep learning and growing and improving?
Well,
Well, that's why.
exactly.
Which
Exactly.
means it's not necessarily a bad thing at all, because then so many wonderful things in my life have happened as a result. And I believe in that as well. That
Yeah.
the idea that is so many of the things that are not as we choose them to be in that moment lead towards the awesome things. So I don't get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
But can I look at that in a different way or make some peace with some earlier part of me to
Yeah.
enjoy right now even more? Maybe.
Maybe the upper limit problem is not about like doing something else, like something greater, like giving your gifts. I mean, it is that ultimately, but maybe it goes back to the paradox that we talked about at the beginning. Like, what happens if you allow yourself to feel that there's no problem, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, that you don't need to do anything different, and that you don't have to strive.
I'm writing it down. There's no problem. So,
Yeah, and the issue here, right, is like, who are you there? Do you know yourself in the place where you're not striving?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Right here, right now, in the instant, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe
that,
the answer is maybe the answer is I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that would make sense, right? Like if you interpreted somehow your parents' lack of presence as like I'm not enough, therefore I have to achieve or be something or keep like on this treadmill to up the ante to get their attention, to get the love, and that pattern, that program becomes established at such an early age, we don't even really know we're doing it. And of course, it's a program that's reinforced by the culture because we're always, you hear it all the time: keep learning, keep growing, and it is a good thing. And then so we get rewarded for it, and I'm sure you've been rewarded for it. It makes you
Sure.
ambitious, and you're doing lots of things, and people look at you and say, "Wow, that's amazing! All the things you're doing." I relate to all of this. Um, but then when you think about an upper limit problem, like in that place, there is no limit. Like it's never enough. It's like almost like an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then the challenge is to do nothing. you know, to not let your mind compulsively think about what's next, what should I be doing, how do I improve?
I look at one of my kids. We have twins. One's more like me in terms of busy, busy thinking, doing all the time. And the other one seems to have this ability just to go, zoop, nothing.
Yeah.
And he can just sit. And there's nothing to do right now. And he can just sit and not even touch his phone or anything. And I'm like, that looks so nice. How do you do that? And I
Yeah.
have a mantra, a reminder on my phone at the moment all the time around slowness is stillness. And whenever it pops up and it reminds me just to stop and breathe and take a second and just go, and immediately the wave of
Yeah.
calm feels amazing.
Yeah.
But I could also hear myself thinking, imagine if I said to myself tomorrow, I'm not going to read a book for a day. It's
Yeah.
like, my God, that sounds awful. Because that's the addiction. That
Right.
would waste the whole day, which
You'd
is
waste,
not at
that's how
all.
you judge it. You'd
Yeah.
waste the day. Yeah. I really relate to you here. I know this place, and it's very seductive. Um, because we're fixated on something, we're focused on something, we rationalize it in a way, say, well, I'm improving, I'm reading this book, I'm bettering myself, and all of that. It is true on one level, and yet when it's being unconsciously motivated by a sense of inadequacy, um, then it becomes compulsive in a way. It's a problem that we can never solve, right? And so I know for me it's scary to let down, to let go, to do nothing, and to trust that there's goodness in that, and that I'm okay exactly where I am, exactly how I am. I say this all the time: you can't change the world until you accept it as it is. You can't change yourself until you accept yourself exactly as you are. And it's what is acceptance? Well, it's you have to give yourself what you longed for from your parents, which is this unconditional presence and really love, so that you can feel like, oh, it's okay, like I'm okay, I don't have to do anything to be loved, I have value just by existing, and that's enough. And since you didn't get that, and many of us didn't get that, the work then becomes we have to be willing to give that to ourselves. And we have to then come up against all of the shadow material, the old identity, who's going to say, are you fucking crazy? That sounds stupid. That makes no sense. You have to achieve, you have to do something, you have to do more. That's how you're going to get all the things you want. So it's, that's the battle.
What's interesting is I'm looking outside right now at our lounges in the sunshine, and I'm very good at sort of saying, right, I'll stop everything, I'll go outside, I'll leave my phone inside, I'll lay there for 10 minutes, enjoy the sun, etc. And I was thinking, so maybe I do get this deep. And I thought, no, because when I go and do that, I also logically piece together in my brain that taking those 10 minutes to do that will mean I'm not saying I think this fully consciously, but it's kind of there. It means when I go back inside, I'll do better work and achieve more and read better. And it's like all part of the same sequence. Even when I try and do nothing, it's doing nothing with the purpose of doing something as a result of doing nothing. Oh my God.
That's amazing. Well, that's amazing that you can track your thoughts like that. That you see what it is you're doing. So you're rationalizing everything you're doing. It has to be in service of something. You can't just let yourself waste time, quote unquote, waste time. Right. So the next time you're aware of those thoughts, like I guess the strategy would be to interrupt the pattern.
Yes.
Be in the discomfort, right? If you can catch the thought, like I have a thing that I do when my negative thoughts come online, for whatever reason. As soon as I'm aware of it, because sometimes it takes a moment to, it's gripping you, and you have to wait a minute. Why am I saying that to myself? I just say no. Like I just set a boundary on my no, and it kind of works. We call it positive aggression. Like I get aggressive with the shadow part of me and just put it in its place because I know it's just fear. And if you really feel into it, Daniel, what's underneath that compulsion, that the mind always needing to be busy with something, it's really just fear. And you don't have to think about it beyond that, like fear of what. But what I can tell you from my experience in working with people, and it's not an easy place to get to, especially if it happened at a young age. And it sounds like that was your existence from the time you were born. Again, if your parents aren't present for you emotionally, if we can't feel them, it's terrifying. Because the experience we're having is I'm alone in the universe. And that's a very fucking scary experience for a newborn child to have. They're obviously not having it consciously, but they're having the experience of that. And as they get older, newborn 1, 2, 3, because of course we are helpless and vulnerable. We can't take care of ourselves. So the fear is actually existential. And I'm just saying that to give some context, that's what you're wrestling with. And really it's what we're all wrestling with. I didn't understand this. It took me a long time to really get to the depth of how fucking scared I was all the time, and how I just pushed it back and kept myself busy to avoid dealing with it. And then I finally, I don't want to say that I fully dealt with it, but I came into contact with it. And, but yeah, I realized how intense it actually was. And so, I say that, why do I say that to you? So that you can have a lot of compassion for yourself. Right? When you do have these thoughts, when you do come from a place of compulsion, when you catch yourself like, oh, I'm doing that fucking thing again. It's like, well, it might be, to remind yourself, well, there's a good reason that I'm doing it, because this is the young part of me that's trying to avoid my existential terror. It's like, fair enough.
Yeah. So it's okay.
Who could blame you for that? Right? Like, we have to give ourselves that grace.
Yeah. And maybe then a less of a need to fix it all, so to speak, as opposed to just be peaceful. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember now why that happens. Well, that comes from great. And now I'm back to right now. Yeah.
Right.
That's really helpful.
It's okay. Good. Yeah.
Holy shit. How did we just do that? How did you just do that in 20 minutes?
Well, the work that I do, because it's so physical, you know, I did it for a long time. It really takes you into the emotion. Like you have an experience, not just an understanding, but you actually have a physical experience of your feelings, all the feelings that the child couldn't feel. So you're constantly regressing back to, you know, infancy, 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old, and you're setting up scenarios that you're recreating what happened to you and allowing yourself to experience it. And there's a different knowledge that you get when you have the feelings move through your body, and you in a sense relive it, because then you actually can see very clearly how your mind like made sense of it, and the how you adapted, and how you shaped yourself, and the mask that um you know that you took on, and then all of the feelings that got repressed into the shadow. So having that experience, there's a kind of knowledge that it gives you that you can't really get any other way. And we all know that, right? You can read about war and be really moved by it, but it's not war. You
Yeah.
know, like the experience of anything that has intensity, you just know it in a different way. And that's why, you know, because I opened this live stream before you came on, talking about the work and why I was pulled into it. And yeah, there's just really something valuable about going all the way into our feelings. So
Really good.
yeah, man. Well, thanks so
Thank you.
much for coming on. Thanks for
Pleasure.
joining us and being willing to talk about this live. And
It's good for me and hopefully good for others. So
yeah, I'm sure it will be. It's a very relatable story, and appreciate you, and my love to your wife. I'm glad she's a fan.
absolutely. Thank you so much, David.
Okay,
All right, take
Daniel.
care.
Bye bye.
Later. Bye.
Okay, people. If you want to be on the show, there's not a link there, but if you go to there is a link in the first one, episode 1. You'll see the link, or you can go to my Instagram page, David Sutcliffe 33. There's a link there. You can apply to get on the show, and I'll talk to you just the way that I talk to Daniel, really gentle, and it's an experience to have, and a good one, I think. So that's yeah. If you want to be on, click the link. But thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.